You guys really liked that last video, didn't you? I'm fine with that because it means I can push up this video that I've been wanting to make for quite a while. You see, all the way back in 2015, The Simpsons released the episode Barthood, which parodied the Oscar-winning Boyhood, a movie that I haven't seen. The episode was well received on IMDb. Most of the reviews of the episode rated it a 9 or 10. The reviews that I could find on YouTube also rated the episode fairly high. Not everyone loved the episode, but the general consensus is that Barthood was a modern classic, with a handful of reviews claiming that not only did it match some of the classic episodes, but surpassed them. Mr. Lisa's Opus, however, aired 2 seasons later, nearly to the episode. Barthood was 27 episode 9, and Mr. Lisa's Opus is 29 episode 8. This episode would act as a spiritual sequel to Barthood, giving Lisa the same treatment. However, while Barthood was met with a pretty high praise, Mr. Lisa's Opus was more mixed. While I think the episode came out good in the general consensus, I found more positive reviews online than negative. I, however, would have to go against the grain here, but to explain why, I really need to explain why Barthood was such a fantastic episode, because the differences between the two explains it all. So, how do our episodes open? For Barthood, we open on Bart and Homer lying on the grass as Bart asks his father questions that Homer can't answer, building to a joke about how Bart crippled his father.
Why did you leave your toy car on the stairs?
We immediately cut to Bart being left with Abe, who encourages Bart's menacing of Homer, and as Bart tries to play with his toy cars with his grandfather, we get our first line of the episode about how Homer ignores Bart.
My dad won't play cars with me either.
Abe then takes Bart out in his classic car that is all forms of nostalgia for any fan of classic cars. The Studebaker Starliner Commander is based off the real-life Studebaker Starlight. Not my preferred classic car, but a nice looking one. Abe then teaches 4-year-old Bart to drive, ending with Bart wishing the day would never end, forging a connection between Bart and Abe that would become the first emotional tie of the episode. Mr. Lisa's Opus starts when Lisa, as a 1-year-old, wakes up at sunrise calling out light, and Homer has to get up because Marge got Lisa the last time. Homer realizes that his daughter is a genius, and we also get Homer accidentally neglecting Bart as if it's a scene pulled right out of Barthood, but we'll get to that soon. We then skip ahead to when Lisa is 18 and applying for college. She begins telling stories about her previous birthdays starting with her 7th. Which, for those who don't know, is on May 9th, apparently. Should have been September 19th, original air day of Stark Raving Dad. I mean, they referenced the episode later, but it would have been a cute nod. Anyway, 7-year-old Lisa wakes up excited and runs downstairs to her family and bacon. It is really weird to see Lisa eat meat in HD. Unfortunately, Lisa's family has entirely forgotten her birthday, and before anyone says anything about how Marge wouldn't forget one of her kids' birthdays, Maggie's like 5 months old at the moment. Her birthday is mid-January, this is mid-May, and young kids tend to scream a lot at night, so I think we can give it a pass this time, especially because Maggie is being alluded to as being difficult at the time being. This is the first time we are told that Lisa's family forgot her birthday, a crushing thing for a child, especially one so young. So far, both stories are setting up how one of the Simpsons kids are feeling neglected by their family, with Bart primarily being neglected by Homer, while Lisa has the entire family forgetting about the lonely middle child. Bart, however, has his grandfather to forge an emotional bond with, while Lisa has no one. Jumping back to Barthood, we cut to 2 years later when Bart returns home with Abe, only to be late for Bart's tutoring lesson with Professor Frink. Bart struggles to read a children's book, only for Lisa to come in and read the book flawlessly. Frink immediately praises Lisa, followed by telling Bart that he won't need to read because he's an idiot.
Customers will just point to a picture of the burger that they want you to flip.
We then cut to Lisa painting the sailboat that hangs above the Simpsons couch, and Bart, seeking approval for his artistic skills, shows off his drawings that are all over the kitchen walls. Marge, to her credit, tries to get Homer to say something nice to Bart about the graffiti, which Homer can't.
Something that ruined our kitchen! I can't even find the fridge!
We then see Bart sitting outside depressed as Lisa is struggling to ride her bike, and Homer repaints the kitchen, finishing just in time for Bart to smash the family car through the kitchen wall.
I got gumption.
Marge and Homer then consult a child psychologist about his destructive behavior, and she tells Homer to stop neglecting his son and spend some time with him. So Homer takes an excited Bart camping in a rundown motel. After they return, we learn that Lisa is Student of the Month at their school, to which Homer is immediately impressed, and we learn that Lisa has only been there a month, while Bart has been there 2 years. He angrily storms away, and Homer follows to talk to Bart and fails to eat his son's slice of cake.
Are you eating that cake?
No.
After giving a short talk about how he loves both his kids equally, Bart asks Homer to put on a homemade bumper sticker on his car. Homer actually agrees, telling Bart he's proud to. And the next morning, Bart wakes up to see Homer going to put the sticker on his car. Unfortunately for Bart, Homer won't replace the 2 stickers he already has, opting to toss Bart's homemade sticker on his dash before driving off, and the piece of paper with scotch tape to fly out the car and land in a puddle. This scene is legitimately heartbreaking. While Homer did go out of his way to reassure Bart that he loved his son, Homer was unwilling to even go the extra step for a symbolic gesture. And even though the scene ends mere seconds later, you can tell just how crushing that is to a child Bart's age. Back to Lisa, and her story progresses to the school where her teacher reveals that it's the birthday of one of her classmates, Hubert Wong. And because of the way it's set up, Lisa thinks that it's her family, and they were only pretending to forget, only for her hopes to be dashed, as even the school doesn't know it's her birthday. This causes Lisa to cry and her teacher to scold her. And because Lisa can't verbalize why she's crying, Lisa's teacher sends her to the principal's office where Skinner traumatizes her.
So don't say a mother word about her. Don't you dare, Mother, don't you dare. I can't hear you, Mother.
Homer picks up Lisa and actually picks up that Lisa's sad after she calls him sir, and puts together the pieces rather quickly and realizes that they forgot her birthday.
It's your birthday, and you forgot it. But because it's your birthday, I forgive you, and you're gonna have the best day ever.
The family scrambles to put together a birthday party for Lisa in a rather sweet gesture. Though I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that Flanders not only remembered Lisa's birthday, but bought her a bike too. We then cut to the future Lisa talking about how all was well until the next year when they forgot again. To be fair, we know exactly what was going on, as Homer was placed in an insane asylum, Marge was dealing with that, and Bart was distracted with the appearance of not Michael Jackson. We know for a fact that Stark Raven Dad is canon to the episode's events because they have Leon and Bart in this episode singing Lisa, It's Your Birthday.
Lisa, it's your birthday.
Back with Barthood, we cut to Bart's 12th birthday where Lisa gets a notification about being Student of the Month again for 48 months straight. Marge tries to redirect to Bart, who's already upset because Lisa keeps outshining him. Now, the smart thing here is Lisa didn't do anything. Bart just has an inferiority complex due to past behaviors of his parents, oftentimes giving Lisa more attention than Bart. Now, that isn't anything new for Bart. While most episodes show Marge and Homer spending time with their kids, many times one-on-one, in certain episodes we do see Bart being ignored by the most important people in his life in favor of Lisa.
Hello, pay attention to me. Look at me. I'm Bart. Look at me. Look at me. Look at me.
We do see it happen to Lisa as well, where they ignore her in favor of Bart. Honestly, I think Lisa is ignored more, but she's always been the outcast in comparison. And off the top of my head, Lisa has never been ignored up to this point in the most formative years of her life, while Bart has. Regardless, Bart runs off smashing light posts with Milhouse. When they get caught, Bart hides with his grandfather while Milhouse gets sent to juvie. Abe gives Bart a new bike, and we cut to ahead once again to Bart doing tricks in his driveway. Lisa and Marge are packing to go to pre-med summer camp, and that leaves Bart and Homer alone for the summer. Homer tries to relate to Bart, who is completely apathetic. Exhausting his entire repertoire of fatherly advice, Homer then goes to Moe's, and Bart doesn't waste a second to throw a party. During the party, Bart finds Homer up in Lisa's room smoking pot with Chief Wiggum. It's here that the two Simpsons men have a heart-to-heart where Homer confides in Bart how terrified he was when his son was born.
Truth is, I'm just like you. A misunderstood guy who wants his family to love him.
This actually gets Bart to give Homer a chance, right before Homer screws it up, basically telling Bart that he'll always be a failure and a screw-up. Once again, Bart runs off where he talks to Abe's grave and decides to start seeking out something he's good at and loves. This leads him to a BMX competition where he almost wins, failing only after seeing Lisa's shadow grow over the ramp. Obvious symbolism about how he feels he's always being overshadowed by her, especially because this comes right after he acknowledged that he was out of her shadow. But hey, it's tough to break your perception of being lesser when you spend your entire life comparing yourself to others that you believe are better than you. Bart ends up falling quite a distance and Lisa revives him, this causing Bart to yell at Lisa, claiming that she ruins everything he's ever done. Let's cut back to Lisa's story. While Bart's story is one of an increasing inferiority complex due to the dynamic of an underachieving sibling being compared to an overachieving one, Lisa's story picks up with her reminiscing about that one time Marge almost left Homer. It's Lisa's 14th birthday, and as soon as she wakes up, Marge rushes in wishing her a happy birthday, and begging her not to tell her therapist, followed by Bart rehashing the famous Lisa birthday song. Even Homer runs in with a cake, a wrong number on it, but he tried, and it's the thought that counts, right? Anyway, after school, Lisa takes all the gifts she received and tries to store them in her closet. Though without room, she goes to Marge's closet. You think she would at least open the gifts so she could store them with as little wasted space as possible, but no. Lisa finds a packed bag and a letter to Homer about how Marge is planning on leaving and taking the kids. She confides in Bart, who asks to tell Homer. Yeah, Bart's been ready for this for years. And I don't mean in the story, I mean in the series. And that night at dinner, we see an annoyed Marge be passive-aggressive at Homer and his drinking. Homer does leave unaware of the tension, and Marge goes into the kitchen so that she doesn't cry in front of her children. A worried Lisa then tells Homer Marge is planning to leave. This results in Homer sobering up and saving his marriage. Afterwards, we see Lisa get accepted into college. So, let's finish up Barthood. A few years later, when Bart and Lisa are graduating high school together, Milhouse throws a party where Lisa gives Milhouse a pity kiss. This causes Milhouse to tell Lisa that she's amazing, and Bart complains about it, causing Lisa to finally snap after 16 years of hearing Bart complain about her. She tells him off, also telling him he's a talented artist. This changes Bart's perspective on his life, and a few years later, we see that not only has he opened a bike shop, but he's actually happy. Lisa comes in with Nelson, and she and Bart make up. We then end on Bart and Homer laying on the front lawn, circling back to the beginning of the episode. In Lisa's story, she moves into her dorm with the help of her family. One of her roommates is a carbon copy of Lisa, but more perfect, and Lisa runs off because she feels like she isn't good enough and doesn't belong in college. She then runs into Bart by the river, who is pretending to date rich girls to piss off their parents.
Get away from him, Andy! I'll pay!
I just want to stop here and say that this is a great idea for an episode. Lisa going to college and struggling her first week with Bart tagging along would make such a fun episode as long as they kept it to just the two of them. Anyway, Bart reassures Lisa that not only is she good enough, but she's better than everyone else attending Harvard. This causes Lisa to return to her dorm where she meets her other roommates, who is also basically Lisa, and gay. We then see a short montage of Lisa's life, ending at the beginning of the episode with Lisa calling out Light. And then we have a third ending where Marge and Homer are singing. Now, why is it that Mr. Lisa's Opus is a weaker episode? Well, it comes down to how they tell their stories. Barthood tells a single story that stretches out across most of Bart's life. They build a connection between Bart and Abe. Then they build the rift between Bart and Homer due to Homer's neglect. At the same time, they build up how the world feels Bart is inferior to Lisa. First with Frank, then with Homer, and finally with Milhouse. The build to Bart yelling at Lisa feels natural due to how long he felt he was in Lisa's shadow. Every time he tried to step out of it, someone said something that crushed him. Unintentionally, but words matter, and ultimately, Lisa never did anything wrong in the story, just living her life. Everything ties back to Homer's neglect, which, with that being unsolved by the end, does harm the episode. However, the story did have a clear build to the payoff at the end. They just ended up missing a couple of scenes. Mr. Lisa's Opus has 3 stories going on, and none of them connect to each other beyond just happening in Lisa's life. The first story is about Lisa's family forgetting about her. The second is a shoehorned marriage crisis between Marge and Homer. And the third one, Lisa moves into college and feels like she doesn't belong despite both of her roommates that we meet being just like her. The only thing tying these 3 plots together is Lisa writing an admissions essay, which is one of my biggest issues with this episode. Unlike Barthood, which is presented as snippets in Bart's life, Lisa's Opus comes off more as Lisa going, "Oh, woe is me," about her family. This, by the way, is the only justification for Lisa in this episode to require a therapist, of which we know that Lisa tells the therapist about the 2 birthday incidents. We know it only happened twice because Lisa confirms it. I won't say that Lisa should just suck it up because having a parent forget something that important sucks. But because the story is being told from Lisa's perspective, it makes it sound like either Marge doesn't care about Lisa in the slightest, as she comes in begging not to have her therapist find out they forgot Lisa's birthday, or sound like Lisa is constantly holding something that happened literally half her life ago over her family's heads.
Thank you. It's a wonderful cake, Dad. But I'm 14.
Don't!
The way the story is told makes Lisa sound bitter towards her family, leaving an awful taste in your mouth as you watch. Most of which does come down to the framing device. If it wasn't there, then Marge's interaction with Lisa would still be frustrating, but much less so. Though swapping from a story where Lisa feels forgotten to one where Marge is wanting to leave Homer doesn't help the story either, because it feels like it comes out of nowhere without connecting to the other two stories. And the second just kind of feels like filler. Homer sobering up doesn't get mentioned in the third part, and Marge being annoyed with Homer's drinking doesn't come up in the first part. Because of this, the entire episode feels unfocused and disjointed. Honestly, Mr. Lisa's Opus feels like 3 episodes that no one wanted to fill out and just mash them together to make one plot. And not helping Bart having a similar episode that was executed better that came out a few seasons earlier. If I were to give this episode one thing, however, it is funnier than Barthood. That episode was focused on the story after all, hitting more emotional moments, and it did nail them. No scene was compromised with a joke, though they were there, just in much less abundance than Opus had.
What's it say? I can't read.
Lisa's Opus, however, threw in several jokes. The entire scene with Homer and Flanders as Homer gave up drinking is absolutely hilarious with how quick Homer was.
No more drinking. Look at those guys. I used to be like them.
And Bart pretending to date people is a funny scene as well. But Skinner's breakdown is probably the best funny scene in the episode, followed by the best emotional scene in the episode. There's so much heart in Homer realizing how they forgot Lisa's birthday, that the entire episode kept that feeling. I'd still be making this video, but it wouldn't be a negative one. Ultimately, the episode is fine. I wouldn't call it a bad episode, but I would say of the series of Simpsons movie parody homages that they've been doing for the last few years, this is the weakest one. It's sad because Lisa really is my favorite character. Luckily for me, this wasn't the last time they spoofed a movie, and with the next time they would in the most recent season, they did manage to tell a much more focused story with Lisa. I'm not going to go over when Nelson met Lisa here, this video is already long enough as is, but if you'd like to see me talk about that episode, let me know. Also subscribe because I have more great videos planned to coming up soon.